Senator Alice Johnson, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Senator, you served 14 years in the Minnesota House. What precipitated your decision to decide to run for Senate?
Well, I was retired for 12 years and enjoyed it a lot. So it isn't that I didn't like retirement. My husband, Richard Jefferson, and I have had just a great 12 years. When we came home from our winter stay in Texas, which we have done for the last 12 years, we started looking. We were watching, of course, what's going on at the Capitol. When we came home, there was not a candidate that was ready to run in our district for the Senate seat for the Democrats. And I was appalled by that, and so started thinking about whether I should run again or not, and really was hoping that we'd find someone that would be really, really gangbusters about it. But it was people were fearful, I think, about taking on the Republican incumbent. And so after some time, my husband and I decided that we were willing to do this. And I'm very happy that we did.
And when you walked into the Capitol for the first time after such a lengthy hiatus, was it kind of like deja vu, or was it as if you hadn't really been here?
No, it was more like deja vu than not feeling that I'd never been here. You can't forget the experience that being here for 14 years, and actually 13 years prior to that I served as a legislative assistant. So I've been in the Capitol for 27 years. And so I'm very respectful and proud to have been here and happy to be back again and hopefully serve the people in the community well.
And let's talk a little bit about what your priorities are for the legislature. You were chairing the K-12 Finance Committee in the House when you were with the House. And just kind of at first blush, give me your impressions of how you would like to see some legislation come through to perhaps change the funding formula or reform education in general. We were talking about it a bit off camera.
Well, I was only chair of the K-12 Finance Division for 2 years, and that was when Governor Arne Carlson was in office. And so I think for me right now, I feel like I need to take a little time and catch up on where everything's going and what proposals people are making. I definitely feel that there needs to be more stable, dependable funding for schools coming from the state. I do not like it that I see the property tax funding schools in so many areas. And then in other cases where communities are not able to pass a referendum level, I mean, they're really falling behind. And so stable funding from the state of Minnesota is what I'd like to see.
And as you've said, you've been through this process before. You've been a part of this entire legislative body. So even though you're new to the Minnesota Senate, do you kind of put yourself in a mentorship position? Do you consider yourself a veteran?
Well, I think it's a combination. Going from House to Senate is definitely different. There's a different atmosphere and culture in the Minnesota Senate as opposed to the Minnesota House. So that I will have to get used to and be ready to work with the way they work. But I feel like somewhat of a veteran in the area of education especially. It's still a very primary issue for me, and that's why my number one request for committees was for the Education Finance Division. And then my second choice was the Education Policy Committee. So I certainly have ideas of what I think we'll be doing, but my main area will be funding, because everything depends on funding.
You also, when you were in the House, are remembered for your work on the pay equity plan to get female salaries in line with males, and you supported insurance coverage for breast cancer patients and 2-day maternity stays for mothers and babies. So will some of these health-related and pay issues remain priorities for you as well?
I'd like to think that, the pay equity thing is maybe been dealt with, but based on the facts, I don't think that's true. And I'd like to say that I was on the Spring Lake Park City Council for 2 years before I was elected to the Minnesota House, and that was one of the things we did at the city, that I led the reform for pay equity for the employees of the city of Spring Lake Park. And I was very proud of that. that and the recycling program in Spring Lake Park were the two things that I would like to say that I kind of accomplished during that short time that I was there. So you can see I certainly care a lot about equity issues, and the issues of women will be a part of my 4-year term here, that's for sure.
And you alluded to this a little bit, but let's go a little bit deeper, and it's probably my last question for you as well. You said that you want to sit back and learn a little bit more about, you know, the issues and get deeper before jumping right in, but do you see that maybe the length of time it's going to take you to get up to speed, do you think that might be shorter compared to some of the other freshmen? And how soon do you anticipate diving right in?
Oh, I'm going to be diving right in right away. I know I will be, and people will be expecting me to. And I was appointed vice chair of the Education Finance Division under Chuck Uyghur. You know, I think it's because of my experience in the House, and it will also mean that I will have additional responsibilities or additional expectations for me because of my experience in the 14 years I was here.
Senator, you did serve 22 years ago when the governor and the legislature were of the same party. It's a repeat now, and it's been that long. So what kind of experience and expectations and advice can you give to some of the new members, since it has been so long since everybody has been of the same party in these leadership positions?
Well, what I remember and think about is that during that time when it was all Democrat, the governor's office, the House and the Senate, that there was more debate amongst the House and the Senate, or the House and the governor. And so, you know, the Democrats were kind of doing a little more of the debating. That's what I remember, rather than just the Republicans and the Democrats. I don't like to use the word fighting, but because it's not meant to be a negative thing, but bringing forward their ideas together. So I think what I'd say to the people who have never been in this situation, that don't expect it to go all terribly smoothly all the time, that there will be plenty of disagreement even amongst the Democrats.
And one last question. You just mentioned expectations. What expectations do you have for the session?
The primary, besides education, the primary expectation that I have would be that we start working together better. And I'm very sincere about that. I really want to be able to listen to what the Republicans have to say, what they want to offer, what they would like to see happen, and hopefully be able to find a common ground. That's been, my whole campaign was really based on that, more so even than education issues. It was the working together. That's what the people of Blaine, Spring Lake Park, and Coon Rapids have said very clearly. They want us to work together and quit the bickering.
Well, welcome to the Minnesota Senate. We look forward to interviewing you in the future. Thanks for joining us, Senator.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.